Hi bank, I make $100,000 a year with no debt. I would like a $300,000 loan to buy a house, please. Very well, sir. Based on your profile, we can give you the best interest rate. Hi bank, I also make $100,000 a year with no debt. I'm here for a $300,000 loan to buy a house and I would like the same interest rate as that guy. I see. I'm sorry to say, Bob, I can only give you our third best interest rate. Excuse me and that guy have the exact same profile. Don't tell me it's because because his credit score is in tier A and your credit score is maybe tier C at best. Hey folks, and welcome back to the channel. For new viewers, my name is John of John's Finance Tips. You saw right in the earlier skit that even if you have the exact same stats as someone, income, debt, if you are off by one number, which is the credit score, it could potentially cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars in unnecessary interest payments. So in this video, I'm gonna try to help you boost your credit score with 5 methods that could send you on your way to that sweet, sweet 850. Now, I do wanna be respectful of everyone's time. If you can't sit through the entire video, no worry. Here is the TLDR. If you are new to the world of credit, go ahead, get a beginner credit card, make your payments on time and in full, and you're pretty much gonna be on your way. And if you wanna support my channel in any way, feel free to check out my affiliate links for some of the best beginner credit cards or travel cards or my favorite cards to look for in 2023. And if you're established in the world of credit, similarly, make your payments on time and in full, and you'll be well on your way. But for everyone else, if you want a little bit more in-depth detail on exactly the right levers to pull, pop a squat, tap that little thumb icon, and let's dive into today's video. Let's quickly level set and discuss what exactly is a credit score. I'm gonna use an analogy here on a number that we all know, the grade point average, or GPA. In high school and in college, that number told others relatively how smart you are. Now, there's a debate whether or not that actually indicates intelligence, but we'll save that for another day. You can think of a credit score as analogous to a GPA. However, instead of telling people how smart you are, it is telling lenders and financial institutions how responsible you are with paying back your debts. That's it. The higher the score, the more relatively responsible you are and the more someone can trust you. The more someone can trust you, the better interest rates you'll get because they think you're more likely to pay them back. In the same vein, the lower the credit score, the less trustworthy you seem with paying back your debts, and therefore you're gonna get higher interest rates because they're not sure whether or not they're gonna get their money back. All right, now onto the 5 key components of your credit score that you can manipulate on your way to that perfect 850. We're gonna start with the least important, making our way to the most important. And one of these I would say is the most important, even though it's not the most heavily weighted. That being said, let's dive into the first component, and that is going to account for 10% of your credit score, known as hard inquiries. So what is a hard inquiry? Anytime you go apply for a new credit, whether it's a credit card or an auto loan or home loan, that lender wants to pull your entire credit report and they wanna see what exactly is under the hood. Are you making payments on time, in full? What's going on here? And every single time, that hard pull, aka hard inquiry, shows up on your credit report. In and of itself, it's not a bad thing to go and look for credit. However, if you start getting a lot of hard pulls within a short period of time, it's telling other lenders that, hey, John's seeking a lot of credit in a very short period. That to us seems risky, and therefore, because of that, we're gonna ding him slightly. Now, the pro tip for hard inquiries is that they fall off after just 2 years on your credit report, and they have the most impact within roughly the first 6 months or so. Overall though, because it's weighted 10%, I wouldn't worry too much about it. For home loans, if you're going around rate shopping, buying a mortgage, they can actually condense hard inquiries done within a period of 14 to 45 days. It'll vary based on the scoring model that the lender uses, so verify with that. With auto loans, similarly, if you're going around rate shopping, you're buying a car, within about 14 days or so, all those hard inquiries should condense into one hard pull. So don't worry too much about someone rate checking. However, my recommendation, if you don't want someone to pull your credit without you knowing, go ahead and freeze your credit report. You can go on Experience, TransUnion, Equifax. It's really straightforward. Just put a freeze on, and every single time you want to see credit, unfreeze it and refreeze it again. Trust me, you can thank me later. So how can you boost your score knowing what a hard inquiry is? The first one is just not applying for as much credit. Now, I will say, because it's such a small ding, I wouldn't worry too much about that. The second method is if you think that this hard inquiry wasn't correct, that someone shouldn't have pulled your report, you didn't authorize that, you can actually send out these templated letters to all 3 of the major credit bureaus, basically saying, hey, I don't recognize that, that's not mine. And the onus is on them to prove that it was yours, and if they can't, then it gets pulled off. Now, you don't have to pay for any of these things. You can just Google online where you can find these templates and you just mail them off, or sometimes you can even do it electronically. Component 2. This also accounts for 10% of your overall credit score, and that is going to be your credit mix. And what credit mix is having different types of accounts. The 2 main types are revolving and installment-based credit accounts. A revolving account, such as a credit card, that balance that you owe every single month changes month to month. Whereas an installment-based type of credit account, such as an auto loan or a home loan, that is fixed. You take out the loan and you know every single month what that is going to cost. The reason lenders like seeing a mix of credit, it just shows responsibility. The fact that, hey, looks like John can juggle a credit card payment and a home loan payment and student loan payments, that might mean that he's less risky and therefore we're gonna give him a little boost of his credit score. But at the same time, I would not recommend you to go buy a house or a car just for the sake of having credit mix, because it only counts for 10% of your score and it's pretty small. Now, how could you use this to potentially boost your score? The easiest is going to be having a mix of credit. But like I said earlier, don't get a house or a car just for this component. Maybe you just graduated college and you have some student loan debt and you don't have a credit card. Great, get a credit card, there you go, you've got credit mix. Component number 3. And this accounts for 15% of your credit score, and that is going to be your length of credit history. This takes a look at everything from the age of your oldest account to the age of your newest account, and of course, the average across all of your accounts. The rationale here is, do you have an established history of using credit? If that history is long, then we see you as more responsible. Whereas if that history is short, if you have a lot of new open accounts recently, we might think that's a little bit risky, kind of similar to the hard increase. But again, at 15%, I wouldn't really worry too much about it. One question I commonly get is, so I've heard you should never ever close a credit account because it hurts your age of credit history. That's partly true, but also my pro tip here is, as someone who opens 5+ cards a year and subsequently closes a lot of the ones that I don't use, and I have a credit score anywhere from 780 to 820, it doesn't really matter, at least not on the length of credit history component. Now, I will say, do not close your oldest account ever if you can help it, but if you open recent accounts and they're just not adding value to you anymore, you can close those. In fact, if you close a credit card account in good standing, meaning it's fully paid off, that credit account will actually still be on your credit report, giving you a positive boost for 10 years before it fully falls off. In the next section, I'll actually cover for you how exactly closing a credit account can damage you, but it's not necessarily from the length of credit history. So knowing about length of credit history, how can we use this to boost our credit score? The most important is going to be keeping that old account open. And the other thing you could do is limit how many new accounts you're opening up. Though in the next section, you'll see why that's not as important. And again, coming in at only 15%, I'm not that focused on length of credit history. The fourth component of your credit score, this one comes in at a weighting of 30%, and that is going to be your credit utilization. Even though this is not the most heavily weighted, because we've got one more to go, I like to focus on credit utilization because I think this is the one that we have the most control over and the one that can give you the most immediate impact when it comes to trying to boost up your credit score. So what is credit utilization? Quite simply, it is how much of your available credit are you using relative to the credit limit that is given to you. So as a very basic example, let's say this card gives me a $5,000 credit limit, and then I decide to go buy this wild honeysuckle candle that costs $1,000. $1,000 over $5,000, that's 20%. That means I am using 20% of my available credit. In the generally accepted rule of thumb in the credit card space is a credit utilization of under 30% is good. Personally though, I would recommend keeping it as close to 0% without actually being zero as possible. Because to lenders, the more credit you are using, the riskier you appear. I know it seems completely counterintuitive. Why does someone give me a $25,000 credit limit, but I can't just use $25,000 credit limit without being penalized? That I have no idea. My only speculation is a credit card is an unsecured loan. So in theory, you could just charge off $25,000 and never pay it back, and there's not a whole ton of consequences. However, I think if you charge off enough, they could come after you and sue you. So definitely don't do that. But that's my theory, is that because a credit card product specifically is so risky and there's not a whole ton of collateral, the more of that available credit you're using, the more risky you are, and therefore it's gonna ding your credit score. Remember earlier how I said closing a credit card is fine because the impact is not so much the length of credit history as it's another variable. Well, this is that variable. So let's walk through an example. Let's say you have 2 credit cards with a $10,000 combined limit. Let's say you then go buy a dog toy for your dog and it costs $3,000. That would mean you're using 30% of your total available credit, which is not bad. But let's say for whatever reason, you decided to close one of your cards. So now you have a $5,000 credit limit and you've charged off $3,000. That's 60% utilization, and that is how closing a credit card can more immediately impact your credit score. But let's say instead of having $10,000 total available credit limit, you had a $20,000 total available credit limit across the two cards. You close one, charging $3,000 against a $10,000 credit limit, 30%, you're still good. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have questions, drop it down below. But the impact is on the credit utilization, and since it accounts for 30% of your score, it's gonna be a lot bigger of a punch. So knowing what we know about how credit utilization works, how can we boost it? Actually, I have an entire video dedicated on exactly how you can boost it up here, but the TLDR is make your credit card statements before that statement close date. Because your statement close date is the date in which your credit card company says, hey, John is using 5%, 10%, 20% of his available credit. They send it to the credit bureaus, and the credit bureaus go, okay, great, plug into the formula, your score either goes up or down. However, the statement close date is typically 20 to 21 days before your due date. Even though you have the cash to pay it off for the due date, you wanna get as much paid off for the statement close date as possible in order to potentially boost your score or at least maintain it. Oftentimes when we have fluctuations in our credit score, it has to do with how much we're utilizing month over month. Not a big deal if you're going over 30%, but just know that that's what could ding you, and if you can get that thing under 30%, then you can instantly boost your score. In one quick caveat, we wanna pay off before the statement close date. We don't wanna get to zero. In fact, I pulled this from FICO themselves where they say, hey, yes, you wanna have a good utilization, but if you're not using at all, we can't judge you. So maybe pay off so that you have a couple dollars before the statement close date. They report it off as John's using 0.5% or 1% of his credit. Great, and then pay the rest before the due date, and you're off to the races. The fifth component, and this is the most heavily weighted, coming in at 35% of your total credit score, that's going to be making payments on time. As the name would imply, it is simply making sure that you are paying on time. This is weighted heavily by lenders because all the studies out there show if you have a history of making payments in the past, then you most likely are gonna continue making payments in the future. My pro tip here for you is if you miss a due date on a credit card bill, it's not the end of the world. In fact, it's not even going to count until 30 days past the due date. Now, I would definitely not recommend you push it to the limit because the day you miss your credit card bill, you're gonna get hit with a late fee. But if you are a day or two late because things are busy, don't worry about it. You're not gonna get dinged on your credit report. Also, you should definitely call the credit card company and ask for a one-time courtesy waiver because being 100% transparent, I have definitely slipped by a day or two before when I've gotten busy. The bank refunds me the fee, no ding to my credit profile. So knowing what we know about on-time payments, how can we use it to try to boost our credit score? There isn't a whole ton you could do to boost, but what you can do is try to automate some of your payments. So if you know your credit card bill is gonna be due on the 5th of every month, set an automatic payment to go out on the 1st of every month. That's it, you know that you will never miss a payday. Other than that, there's not a whole ton you can do other than just month over month, making sure you are paying your credit card bill in time. Folks, as you can see, component 4 and component 5 add up to 65% of your credit score. Earlier in the video, I said if you don't have time, make sure you pay on time and in full. That's what I meant. 65% of your score is coming from those two components. The other three, they're important. You should definitely be aware to them, but there's no need to stress over those as much as these last two. Hopefully that was helpful. Now, if you enjoyed this video, comment down below. If you have any comments, suggestions for other videos, other topics, I would love to hear them from you guys as well. But until then, I will catch you all next week. Peace.